Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Witch Cafe. I know it's been a while. I've sort of spread out the shows to once a month. And if you know me personally, you know that don't have a lot of time in the evenings because of my children. So thank you for your patience in the schedule changes. Tonight, we are rounding out 2023 with another vampire named Vampire Helly. So
Hi.
you are a living vampire, or how do you
Yes.
refer to yourself? Okay, so she's a living vampire, and she's here to talk about herself and her work in the community. So if you're joining us now or later, please hit a thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for coming. I have not done this in a while, so just hit subscribe and like and all the things. You know what I mean? Share it, like it, go follow Helly, all that good stuff. So why don't you introduce yourself and let us know who you are and how this all started?
My name is Helly, and who I am is, I guess the best way to describe it is someone who's very goofy, but also takes their passions very seriously. So a lot of people may see me and think, oh, that's a vampire. So they're very macabre and serious and dark and mysterious. But in reality, I am just a goofy, silly person who loves to laugh and get excited about things, but I do take things very seriously when it comes to my magical practices, my TikTok, my YouTube, and things like that. And how I got started is kind of interesting. Um, a long time ago, I watched a video by someone named Daley South, and she was talking about how she discovered she was a real life living vampire. And in the back of my mind, I was like, that really resonates with me. But at the time, I guess I just didn't have the open mindedness enough to realize that that was also me because I was feeling that, but I wasn't admitting that. And then later in 2021, it was Halloween. And originally I was going to do, because I had a TikTok in 2020 when everybody was bored in the house and in the house bored. I had a TikTok and I would just post videos of cats and my Joe Exotic cosplay from Tiger King. And so I wasn't taking it very seriously because it wasn't like something I thought I could do. But then on that Halloween night, I was gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna do a Ghostface cosplay. Then I looked in my closet and I saw that I had all these different things, and I was like, I could be a vampire hunter. So it started off as me cosplaying as a vampire hunter, and then kind of turning it into a character. And in the storyline, that vampire hunter character becomes a vampire. So at first it started off as a cosplay thing, but then one day I was putting on my makeup and my hair and everything and my fangs, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you know what? This is not a costume. When I'm wearing my glasses and things like that, that's the costume. And the more I really sat and let that seep in, the more research I started doing about living vampires, and that's when I was ready in my life to admit that I was a living vampire and am a living vampire. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Okay, so you're the second vampire I've had on, and we talked to Jack about what that means for him. But what does living vampire? What does the term living vampire mean for you? And how did you just what was your you kind of touched on it briefly, but what was it like to finally accept that for you?
It was super freeing. It was really scary when it came time to like really put that out there, and oh my goodness, it was like it was so freeing. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like for me it was like the key turning on the door. Like that was the term, that was the words I needed to say to myself to bring back the missing puzzle pieces. Like all my life, I was like, there is something about me that I don't understand. But I'm just gonna go about living my life, you know? And then once I realized that and accepted it, I felt complete in a sense, because I could finally put that missing puzzle piece there. And so that was very freeing. And to be a living vampire, for me is it's an energy thing. So there are some living vampires who are sanguine. And then for me, I am one that takes energy. So a lot of times I'll take ambient energy from around me, and that's really awesome. Like if there's a crowd of people in a concert, there's just leftover energy that's around them, and I can kind of take that in. And then with consent, because consent is key, I'll take energy from another person, but I do have to have that consent. So for me, it's strictly energetic. So yeah.
That's interesting. So, what were some of the things that changed for you? Did you have any physical changes when you started, taking in energy and realizing that you needed this? And how were you filling that void before you realized you were a vampire?
I guess what physically changed for me was not being as tired all the time, because for me it was more of a tired thing. I was very foggy, very hazy, like in my brain. And then once I started taking energy, I noticed that I was more alert and focused and not as sleepy. For other people, headaches. Headaches was a big one for me too. I would get a lot of headaches before, and then after taking energy, like I would feel so much better, so much more relaxed, but also like ready to conquer the day. So energy work helps me with a lot of things, and those are just some of the things that it helps me with. But and then what was the other question? What was I doing before I realized that I was a vampire?
Yeah, so how are you trying to treat, I guess, how are you treating that energy deficit before you realized that you needed to take energy from an outside source?
I grew up full like transparency. I grew up very sheltered. And so when I wasn't able to get that energy, I could feel a drain. And that's back before I even understood what it was. But what I did understand was that when I was around people, I was more energetic and I was more happy and I didn't feel sickly anymore. And so I was always begging to go out and be around people all the time. And I thought it was just because, I was depraved of social interactions. And yes, I was. But that was another part of helping me feel like my best was being around people.
Okay, so you sort of, yeah, with inadvertently were sort of absorbing it around you, just naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. You talked a little bit, or you mentioned a magical practice. What was it before vampirism, and how has it changed since your awakening, I suppose?
I am beaming ear to ear because the answer to this question is insane. So before all of this started, I grew up Christian, specifically Pentecostal. So there were a lot of things that I was not allowed to do, and I was encouraged to be very close minded. And when I did express open mindedness about things, I was told that that was sinful. So a lot of times I would keep my opinions to myself, and things. So then I went from that to thinking, oh, like I'm still a Christian, but I still have this open mindedness. And then I realized that I never really believed in those teachings and that it was just kind of forced on me. So I said, okay, let me look and see what's in there and see if that's really something that resonates me and something I believe in. And the more I looked at it, the more I was like, no, it doesn't feel right. It's never felt right. And I don't feel like this is the deity, the Christian God. I don't feel like this is the deity that's been watching over me all my life. And so then started the path to figuring out if I even wanted to worship anything or not, or if I just wanted to worship myself or what I believed and all that. So then I went from eventually, long story short, I went from being a Christian to now my deity is Odin. So
Okay,
yeah, and
that was my next
it's
question. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because some I know some people forfeit, the paganism of things and start kind of not necessarily worshiping a god. So it goes two ways. They either worship, the energies that are themselves as a reflection of this like archetype of God that we've been taught, or they kind of, find an archetype like Odin to, be with. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's beautiful.
Thank
So my next question is going to be what is your magical practice like now? Like how do you like to work with Odin? I love Odin. Odin's kind of, been around. He hasn't been around the past year, but somebody else has stepped in. I think that my work with him may be on hiatus for now. But how did you realize you needed to work with Odin, and what is your magical practice like now that Odin is in your life? Because especially since you've been sheltered, you probably didn't have a lot of exposure to vampire pop culture or paganism.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't know it, growing up, but Odin appeared to me growing up, and I'll share that in a little bit. But how I work with Odin now is I specifically, like, as far as like worship goes, usually every Wednesday I'll light a candle and dedicate a drink to him. And sometimes my sacrifices will be poetry that I'll write and then put into the candle, because he likes poetry and things. And when I ended up, the way that I found Odin is kind of interesting because I always knew about Odin, like throughout life. I knew that like he was a god. Um, but the way that I decided to start researching him was through a opera written by Wagner, The Ring Cycle. And so there was a character inspired by Odin in The Ring Cycle, Wotan. And so I got curious and I started researching who Odin was and the way that he appears to people and his level of consistency, because he's not always there. He's not, omnipresent. He's there for you and watches you and things like that when it's needed, or when he feels it's needed. And so there was just different things. And so I was like, Odin feels right. And so at one point I just set up a candle and I started doing some divination and came to realize that my whole life it was Odin. And I remember a specific moment as a kid, going back to what I was saying before, the specific moment as a kid, there was this cat, and it only had one eye, but it followed me around everywhere, and it was there for a week of my life, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. And anybody could say, there's reasonable explanations for that, right? It's not just like that was definitely a god. But for me, in my personal life, that's what it felt like to me. And so, yeah, that's kind of Odin is my man. And I do like the lighting the candles, the a drink to Odin, and I feel like he is there for me in times where it's necessary. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So my next question is about your makeup and the colors, because you seem to wear some fire colors. Does that have any magical significance to you, or it definitely looks cool. So there's that. But like, does it mean anything to you? Because color kind of has its own energy and kind of like makes people feel a certain way. So what is your inspiration behind your makeup and like the fire colors?
The inspiration behind the makeup is a phoenix, and it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. So you see, like the scarf is red, orange, and yellow, and those are representative of my colors. I don't know how close I can get to the camera, but this is a look I created, called the phoenix, and there's a beak right here, and then there's like the fire, the tail that goes out. And then the red, the orange, the yellow is a phoenix rising from the ashes. And then, of course, the glitter represents the fire.
Okay,
So,
very cool.
yes.
Why a phoenix? Why is a phoenix so inspirational to you?
Because I feel like personally that my life started out kind of rough, and I was always discouraged from being myself, but still managed to stay true to my, giddy, happy self. Even when bad things were happening to me or around me, I understood the gravity of those situations, but I was still able to remain positive, and I came out of that. In many situations, I have found my way out of those bad situations and found safety and peace for myself. And now in my life, I can see everything before, was horrible. And there were many times where I wanted to give up, and then I didn't give up because I knew in my gut that eventually life would be, you know, the way that I wanted it to be, which is just simple and peaceful and free, and me being able to chase my dreams and me being in a safe place with safe people. And eventually that did happen for me, and I'm so glad that I didn't give up. So I feel like a phoenix that rose from the ashes.
It's beautiful, and that makes a lot of sense after what you've told me about yourself. So what are your goals for yourself as far as, you're a content creator, but do you want to make that your sole purpose, or do you want to write? Do you want to do more acting? Like, what are your dreams? Like, what do you aspire to do with all this freedom that's come with your realization that you're a vampire?
My main goals in life are to entertain and to, of course, educate people when it comes to what being a vampire is, destigmatizing what a vampire is, because there are so many people who still don't think a vampire is real. Like, they see my fangs and everything, and they're like, "Oh, well, then if you also cosplay, then you can't be a real vampire." And I don't understand why, but people think those two things aren't mutually exclusive. And I have to point to other examples in my line of work and be like, no, this is a thing. Like, I'm nerdy, okay, but I also have a spiritual side, and those two things come together, and like, this is an outward reflection of my soul. But to go back, um, my goals in life are to write. I love writing. Writing's my favorite. I'm putting together some of my works of poetry and hopefully gonna get a book out this year. I hope. Like, that's my hope. And
Oh, very cool.
yeah, and I'm working on writing a libretto for an opera with my husband. So I
Yeah.
love writing. I want all of those writing projects to take off. But of course, I do want to continue and pursue TikTok, YouTube. All of these things are big, big goals for me, and I want to just continue to have it grow because I love the fact that I can entertain people and help them like chill, because life is hard. And if they can come to my live every Friday, Saturday, Tuesday night and just like relax for a couple hours, then I feel like I'm winning. Like, life is
Yes.
good.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Your lives are always very busy, and people seem to love you. So that you're definitely doing that already. So that's one of your goals is happening. That's good to know.
It is, and it makes me happy.
So you plan on releasing your poetry books in 2024?
Hmm. Yeah, I had to think about that. I was like, wait, isn't it 2022? Wait, no, it's
Yeah,
2023.
yep, time is weird, right? So I wanted to ask you, so you recently kind of talked to your local paper, I mean, it's not recently, but a few months ago about vampirism. So how did that happen? What was the article about? And how is the community receiving it where you are?
So I got reached out to by that local paper, and they were saying they wanted to do a feature piece on me. And at the time, somehow I didn't equate feature piece to being the front page, because I didn't think that they had the balls. Can I say balls on this channel?
Yeah, yeah. I mark everything as like 18 and up and explicit. So
Okay, good. I didn't think that they'd have the balls to do it in a small town. I just didn't. I was like, oh, they're not gonna even publish this, really. They just are curious. And
hmm.
so I met with the interview and got me a picture taken, and they seemed kind of almost weirded out at first. But then the more that we were talking, the more that the interviewer felt comfortable and was like, oh, you're not judging me for not being like you, so I'm not going to judge you either. So it was like a mutual kind of like two different worlds meet on mutual ground, and everything was good. And then maybe a couple weeks later, I walk into the store and I look at the stand in the papers, and there's my face on the front page.
How cool.
And so,
Surprise,
yeah,
right?
so I was like, whoa. And so, of course, I had to tell everybody about it. And that paper actually put it out on the internet too. So people were seeing it. And as far as how I was received, um, it was a mix. There was some like really great comments and people getting really excited, like super hyped. They were like, whoa, I love that this exists here. And I love that people were starting to come out. And so people started telling me their stories. They're like, yeah, I feel the same way. Either the people telling me that they're living vampires, or people telling me, that they're witches, or, something other than the same religion,
Yeah.
So there was that, and that felt really good. But then there were some haters, and there were a lot of like, grow up, get a real job. This isn't
Yeah.
real. This isn't even news, bro. And so
Yeah.
I was advised by a lot of people not to read the comments. So I didn't really read those comments because once I started to notice that there was some backlash, I was like, oh, I'm
Mm.
having a good time. I don't want to see anything else.
Yeah, for sure. That's sometimes that's the only way to do social media.
Hmm.
What is your friends and what did your friends and family think when you kind of like came out of the coffin or whatever, however you want to phrase it? Is your family accepting of you, or were they upset at first, or and then they're fine now, or was everybody just like, okay, how did that go down for you? Because a lot of people are afraid of that. They're afraid to say that they're a vampire because they're afraid of what their friends and family and colleagues might think.
Yeah. So I got a message from my dad that day. He was like, I saw you in the paper. And so I was like, oh no. And then he was like, and then he followed it up with, I'm super proud of you. And I love that you're, able to be honest about who you really are and just saying it and being proud. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. And that just made me really, really happy.
Oh, that's so cute. Sometimes
Yeah.
they do better than we expect. It's kind of like, as an adult, we don't like to share everything with our parents that we do. And then they find out, and we're kind of afraid we're going to get judged because other people have judged us in the past. So that totally makes sense that he's still your dad, so.
Yeah.
And what about like friends? And so you're a full-time content creator now?
Yep.
So what did friends and colleagues, how long, so when was your awakening? How long have you been, doing this for? Or how long have you realized you're a vampire for?
I think it was February of 2022.
Okay. I thought you said it was after, like, yeah, okay.
Like
So,
February. I can't remember if it was February leaning into March, but
okay.
it was like around then.
Okay. Yeah. So what was that like? Were you kind of like slow with coming out to people that you knew, or do you feel like I didn't really have to, didn't have to tell them, because it's not their business? How did you feel about that? Like integrating this newly discovered self into the life that you had?
There were some people that I didn't tell, and some people that I still don't discuss it with, um, because I know that they feel uncomfortable about such topics. So I don't discuss it with them. But I feel like at this point, now that I've been on Fox News, it's kind of hard for me to keep it a secret. So I just kind of, for the people that feel uncomfortable, I don't bring it up to them because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I want to respect their level of comfort. But at the same time, I wish that I could tell some people and just be like, hey, you probably already know this about me. But can I tell you what this means for me? I wish I could do that, but I wish that, everybody's mind was a little more open, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in yet. But then there are some people who just accept it and don't talk about it. And then, yeah, and then my friends are really, really supportive and they're all about it. And they sometimes are in my videos and pictures with me and stuff. So that makes me happy.
That's fun. You just got to find the people that will support you and keep them around.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I lost that question in my brain. So, are you part of a specific, I know like some people are part of like halos and different types of vampire communities. Are you part of any of that as far as like groups go, or are you kind of like a solo vampire?
I'm kind of a solo vampire. I think the term is Ronin.
Okay.
Um, but I'm solo because drama. And I say drama not because I was involved with drama, but because I see drama. And I'm like, I don't really want to be potentially a part of that. I know not every coven or Halo is like that. I'm sure there are probably more peaceful ones than the ones that have the drama, but I just a lot of times my experience of seeing it has been, a lot of political things and just things that I see in the non-magic world, and I'm like, why are you bringing this like political stuff and drama and back talk into a group that's supposed to be magical where we build each other up? So for now, I'm Ronan. I'm by myself. I'm working on all of my practices, because it's also hard to find people that kind of follow a similar path to me, because usually what I've seen for vampires is that their magical practice is a little different to mine, and that's awesome. That's great. But I just haven't found those enough in common to be like, yeah, let's join let's be in a Halo and things like that. So I'm kind of just working on me right now. Have nothing against Halos. I don't want to say come off like I have something against it, but I've just seen so much that I'm like, I'm gonna if I get to that point where I'm like, yeah, I want to join a Halo, I'm gonna be like pretty picky about it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I haven't I just had my awakening over this past year. So always kind of was doing vampire magic, I guess. I just thought it was energy work. But then I kind of went down the rabbit hole for a different research project because I was more involved with UFOs and kind of studying like dream demons. And then I started learning about the demons and how they're not, what we're led to believe they are. And then that kind of led to some strange, like energy sucker type entities all the way back in Samaria. And it was just like, this sounds like vampires. And I was like, it's time for my vampire time of the year. And then normally I hyperfixate on vampires for like 2 months. And then and then I move on to like X Files or Supernatural or something else. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
This year it just wouldn't go away. And then I found, the TikTok vampire community, insomnia one night. And I've always been like a night person too. So it just keeps adding up. Sun kind of irritates me unnecessarily. Like people are fine but I can feel it. It makes me
Yep.
irritable, it makes me sick. Like if it's coming through the window, I'm just like, like get off me. Like, but you're the sun. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you're not going to die in it, but it does make vampires uncomfortable for most of the ones I've met. But so it all kind of added up, and then I was just like, there's no way. And then I started kind of like following, reading every famous vampire, honestly, because, those are the people that are public about it.
Mhm.
And it was just like, I think, and then I was sure because some other weird stuff started happening, but and it just kind of took over, and I'm okay with it, and it never left. I didn't really like leave the UFO community, but I kind of, for now I did because it was very overwhelming for me to um, be having like building a name there, but not being able to do anything with it because of life restrictions that I have.
Mhm.
So I had to find something and move into something that was like accessible wherever I was because I move a lot. So, you're a vampire everywhere you go. And also, like, I started writing, so you're a writer. Like, so I was just like, I'm a writer now. Like, it's and I've always had these like vampires living in my head since like high school. So like it's always been part of my life. I just never thought I was one. I just thought I wanted a rich vampire boyfriend, and that's it.
That's legit.
So,
I mean, I feel like honestly, Lestat was a big part of my awakening.
yeah.
So seeing that because and I think we're both this way, but because we're creatives, that was probably what led us to be skeptical of our own awakening at first, because we were
Right.
like, are we just doing this because we like to read about
Yeah.
vampires,
Yeah.
or is this like for real?
Yes. That's exactly what happened. Another weird thing that happened, and I don't know if there's any significance with vampires and roses, and I haven't really researched it, but I always thought roses were kind of like cliche.
Hmm.
And out of nowhere, I was obsessed with white and red roses, just like out of nowhere. Like I couldn't, I have them in my house all the time now. And I used to be like, roses are overrated, like they're just dead flowers. And like I'd use them in magic and stuff. But like for some, whatever reason, when I had my awakening, I was drawn to like roses. It was so weird. And I'm still mad about it because I talk crap about roses for like my I'm like the anti-romantic, you know, unless it's
Uh-huh.
Dracula. Like Dracula's romantic, but I guess being bit and covered in a harem of female vampires is not romantic to everybody, but that's my level of romanticism. No, my first vampire boyfriend was Lost Boys. Like, so
Lost Boys. Ooh.
Wayne specifically. Anyways.
Me and roses. I've liked roses ever since I was little, and I really liked the orange ones. I don't know if they're like orange, creamy, peachy. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
color. I always liked those ones, and now that I look at like my orange colors and things, I'm like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah. It's funny because I always thought they were kind of like cliche, but
That's
now
interesting. I think it's interesting how there no two vampires are the same. When I got into this world, I thought all vampires were supposed to worship the same deities, do the same type of work, and
hmm.
that just anytime that I tried to fit myself into another vampire's mold, I always came up feeling unsatisfied. So that made me question whether I was even a vampire or not. And so I had to go through that journey too of realizing,
Mhm.
yeah, I am a vampire. I'm just not like them. I'm like me. And I think that and that's something I like to encourage too is individuality and practices. Because I think a lot of people, especially ones that may have had religious trauma,
Mhm.
feel like they, if they're not, in a church setting, that they still need to have a community of worshipers. But I like to encourage people to find their own practice, to find their own peace, and just to love themselves, and love themselves in that. And that you can, be on your own with this stuff. So I try to encourage people that just because you see someone else practicing a certain way and you try it and it doesn't feel right, that doesn't mean you're any less magical. That means that their practice works for them, but it doesn't work for you, and there's something else out there for you.
Yep, and it's like that in, the witch community as well. And I've never really been able to like be in a community successfully except for UFOs. So
Because
weird.
it's hard, because sadly drama does get involved and
Mhm.
politics and things like that, and they'll be the first people to tell you, hey, so and so is friends with so and so, so you better act right, and I don't like that, and I don't see it in every community, but I see it in some, and it's just like,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
why?
Yeah, it's we're all adults, right? Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's hard. It's hard to meet like-minded people and that can just chill. I think that's why I like the writing community right now.
Hmm.
Even in UFO land, there's all sorts of crazy like drama, and it just gets out of
Why?
hand.
Why is there drama in the UFO community?
Well,
I feel
because
like that should be a safe space. It should be sacred.
yeah, and it's kind of funny too. Like people were all about me having like all sorts of like occult people on, occult like witches, occult historians, any UFO person. Some people give me crap about some of the UFO people I had because one's like a liar and somebody doesn't agree with them, and then um, people. The biggest backlash I got out of all the weird stuff I had on, I had a guy on he talks about time travel and how like aliens might be us from the future. It's called an extra tempestual model. Um, and he wrote a fiction book. And in the fiction book, it was there was a lot of spicy alien stuff happening, and I loved it. So
Mm-hmm.
I had him on, but like after, so he came on, and we had a lot of fun. And after that, I just started having on like everybody that I wanted to have on, and the whole vampirism thing happened. So when I had Jack on, people were like, "What are you doing? Like, vampires aren't real. Like we've tolerated your craziness up to here with your witchiness and all this stuff, but for some reason, people wanted to draw the line at vampires."
That's so weird.
And I don't understand it.
I don't understand that either, because it's like, people probably thought witches weren't real for a while. You know, they were like, "Oh, where's your green skin? Where's your long pointy nose? Where's your warts
Right.
all over your face?" And that's just not what a witch is, you know? I'm sure maybe there's some. I hopefully not any with green skin. Otherwise, you know, I'll send some good vibes your way, some healing
Yeah.
vibes.
Right.
But like, vampires are just as real as witches, you know?
That's how I always thought, but I tend to be like a very open person. So I never thought that there wasn't.
Yeah.
So for people to be, yeah, people just like wanted to draw the line at vampirism. They're just like, "You've lost it. Like, we're done with you." So I lost so many followers. It was just like, they just didn't understand it. It wasn't professional research anymore. Even though the discovery came, I don't really care at this point. Obviously, I'm still having vampires on, and I will continue to have vampires and werewolves. If you're out
Yeah.
there, I want you. I am on a hunt for werewolves, like living werewolves. So I need you if you're out there. I have a book. I show it every time I'm on. I just need to contact this guy and have him on.
You should contact him.
It did start as a book channel. So, but I'm expanding to like some fantasy writers starting in January too. So I'm gonna have more like book stuff, but book people and cryptids. So
I love the topic of cryptids, and when you told me that there's going to be more cryptids, I
there,
like kind of went whoa ha, 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 because I love hearing that topic so much that I'm like, I want to sink, no pun intended, I want to sink my teeth into that because I love cryptids. I'm a nerd about cryptids.
The guy that I'm having on, and I haven't announced him yet because I want to confirm it one more time. He's gonna come on, but like for February will be my my Sasquatch researcher, and he goes in the field for like months. And I hope he's not watching this. He's just like this gorgeous researcher, super intellectual about it. He views it from like an anthropological type of like very grounded viewpoint when it comes to Sasquatch. So then I got to find somebody after him that's just like, no, Sasquatch is multidimensional. Like I need that opposite thing to happen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be fun. I'm gonna have fun with this because people are already mad at me, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So you might as well just do your show. Like, just do your show the way you want it to be done.
Yeah, I just feel like I kind of reached like a limit of of being in a box. So I don't care anymore. I just want to be happy. And then also there were so many like celebrities coming out like with like UFO podcasts, and I couldn't get like the next level of guests that I would want to get for UFO stuff is just like they're booked out like crazy, and they're going on shows like Joe Rogan. And so there's so many things that like I feel like what came from the UFO community for me was my ability to talk about this, to get on a screen and not feel like I swallowed a vibrator because my voice isn't shaking. I did public speaking, and I literally sounded and felt like I sounded like a baby goat, or like I swallowed a vibrator because I was so nervous. So that's gone. I'm still weird when I talk about my writing because I'm a weirdo, but like everything else, it taught me how to like reach out to people, and it got me some public speaking experience and stuff like that. So the UFO community like probably saved my life because I was very upset and very like in a bad mental spot when I joined it.
Yeah.
I just kind of like fell out of it, and I wanted to just discover myself and be myself, and that's reflecting onto the podcast. So there is a question. Priscilla, are you a witch or a vampire? I am both. I was an energy witch, which is kind of like the whole quantum witch thing, because I did a lot of energy work, and that's what resonated the most with me. So realizing that some of my practices were vampiric exercises and I didn't realize it, I identify as vampire now.
And I think that there are many people that are vampires and witches, and I think there's a lot of correlation there.
Yeah, it's all about the way energy is manipulated. Now, the thing that I found was different was like if I'm doing Reiki, you're not supposed to put it in a doggy bag for later, right? You're supposed to like transmute it, send it off, do all this stuff with it. And I would keep it for myself because at this point they're asking me to take it. So I would take the blockages and I would kind of like, at first I was just doing as I was told and like releasing it, but then I realized I felt better like if I kept it and transmuted it and used it for myself. So I didn't realize that was vampirism. And then and then I didn't realize also that your vampiric self would do what it had to do to get energy if you were unaware of it. So that was kind of happening too. And I was kind of accidentally like, I thought I was just being Debbie Downer or like something was wrong with me. I thought like I'm like half demon. I don't know. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was, but I knew that sometimes coming away from me, people didn't feel good. So like, I was not, and I'm not a mean person, so I didn't understand it. But now I understand that I was probably like taking their energy. So,
Yeah, and I think that that isn't anything to be down on yourself about, because a lot of like it's something that we've all done as vampires that didn't know we were vampires. We just kind of took it because that's what our body needed and our souls needed to survive and not feel bad. So we just took the energy. But now that we know that we need
But yeah, now I don't do it.
you
I'm not
know
trying to like if I do energy work, I'm like, do you mind if I keep this? Like I asked a super weird question, but can I keep it? So hi Khan from Word King from TikTok. Khan's like my new best friend. He's a writer as well. I met him during the whole like November writing challenge.
Oh, NaNoWriMo?
Yep. So he was doing that too. And that's how we met. Through another guy, Sean, who's going to be my guest in February. So or January.
Oh.
January. He writes fantasy. So like, but yeah, the community is all like, it's just weird. And the writing community is so diverse. I'm meeting so many people. I'm having a lot of fun, and it seems to be super low key. Like there's always like book talk drama, but
I think there's drama everywhere.
There has to be because there's conflicting personalities everywhere you go. Okay, so we covered this, but do you mind going over kind of like how you realized you were a vampire again?
Yeah. So, when I was a kid, I didn't know what was going on. I had a sensitivity to the sunlight. I would get headaches. It would be very like foggy in the brain. But when I was around other people, that always kind of cleared up. And so I was always begging to just like be around other people and stuff. And then fast forward to adulthood, I watched a video by a woman named Daley South, and she was talking about how she came to realize she was a living vampire and all of the things that she was saying about needing energy and taking energy and things like that. And then I was like, oh, that's not me. But I resonate with all of those. So I was kind of closed-minded to myself at that point. And then in TikTok, I, started cosplaying as a vampire hunter and created a story, like a fictional story for that character. And that vampire hunter became a vampire. And so I started dressing up as a vampire. And then I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was like, this is not a costume. This is the real me. And I'm staring at the real me that I've always been searching for. Like, I've always felt like something was missing. There was always unanswered questions. And from there, I kind of did research on living vampirism. Like, I read, Father Sebastian, Michel Belanger, like, great books. And especially, like, Michel Belanger's book about, like, the psychic vampire codex. That really helped me to kind of piece things together. And then I was like, okay, like, let's be real. I'm a living vampire. And I know that sounds like weird to people that aren't in that, magical mindset, but that is me. That's who I am.
I love that phrasing. The people that are not in that magical mindset. I really
They're
like that.
muggles.
Yep, muggles. Exactly. Yeah, it's super weird because when I started like I've always been kind of vampy, but I mean but when I finally was like purposely looking vampy, I felt more comfortable just with everything. Let's see,
It's an outward reflection of our souls. So yeah.
Okay, you took my question. Okay, so he took my. It's all right. I was going to ask this. Was there one particular book of the ones that you mentioned that was specifically significant to you? And you also worded it way better than I would have. Con, get out of here.
Probably Michelle Belenchay's, because for me, I needed something that was going to make sense to me as a beginner, but also not dumb it down. I needed some real nitty-gritty stuff, and that was a really good starter book, and it's one I recommend to people all the time.
I need to order the revised one.
You should.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm allowed to buy things now, right? It's Christmas.
I also really like her book. I think it's called Vampires in Their Own Words, and it's about other vampires and their experiences. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
The Demon Dictionary, I highly recommend. Dictionary of Demons, if you're into that.
Ooh. Yeah, because once you start getting into like demonology and researching what a demon is, I know I was mind blown. I was like, wait a minute, this is not what I was taught in church. And that was a big part of it, is getting rid of my own like religious trauma and kind of figuring out what I actually believed.
Yeah, some people won't even, they're just not going to talk about it ever. Like I have a friend, she would just be like, no.
Mm-hmm. You say the word demon and people are like,
they're afraid it's going to jump out.
Mm-hmm.
So like imagine trying to tell people like, you know,
that you worked with one.
Yeah. That's what ended up happening. And that's why I was like, no, is this cool or is this not cool? And then so I started reading Michelle's book and I was like, this is totally fine. Like, and to be honest, the most peace has come from those types of entities for me, and has really helped me create a practice. Like even like I can't remember being in practice with anybody else the way I am with specific. Like I work with Lucifer, so like the beauty and peace that I get from Lucifer is not like any other saint or anything I've ever had before. I was a Hecatane witch for a long time, and I learned a lot about like, you know, working through my shadow during that season. And I think that it's kind of weird that she's kind of like the underworld goddess, and then I come out and like Lucifer is just like arm around, I'm your daddy now,
Lucifer was like,
daddy.
And I thought that getting into this path that that's what I was supposed to do. I thought that because, you know, vampires, there is a darkness to that, that I in turn of course would worship a darker deity or a demon, like Lilith. A lot of vampires love working with Lilith because she is the mother of vampires, so it makes sense. But for me, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel wrong, but it just didn't feel like the right fit for me. And so you know, and it's weird to be like, oh, sorry about the camera. It's weird because I feel like I'm an oddball in a community that other people think is weird, but I'm like, no, everybody has their own practices and everybody has their own deities or not deities. Some people choose not to worship.
Vampire.
Yeah, I am.
So, but I've seen you be mysterious too. But like, when Lilith came to me, I didn't know what was happening. When Lilith came into my life, I did not know what was happening. I was just like awakened in certain ways where my husband was like, what is going on with you? Look at Con says, if you say demon, you are the least of a demon. Don't let the kink fool you. He's gonna get mad, but they say puppy, puppy, puppy. Okay, so
I know when my husband saw me unmasked for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, that's when he was like, oh.
Yeah,
so
I didn't know
what that being a vampire is.
So for me, it's like, some people have like an animal, it just takes the humanity, right? Like you're just not. So like for me, like my husband would be like, I don't know, like you're scaring me, but I don't know why. And I didn't realize I was doing it. And it's always during like high stress, high trauma times. I've been with him since 2010, so he's seen me through it all. But like there was times where I would just shut off and just go away. And that's when I realized that it was unmasking, because he would be like that was not just you like shutting down, that was weird. Like that was
Yeah.
so.
And then there is that for me, but then there's also like the primal side of me that comes out. And it usually happens when I'm doing some sort of physical activity, because I like to do, strength training and stuff like that. And also when things are a little spicy.
I was gonna say, I'm a romance writer, so like my mind goes back to
And also things are a little spicy.
yeah, the fangs have been requested for when he comes back to visit. So. Everybody's like, does your husband know what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, he saw the fangs and he likes them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people don't. I don't understand why we get questions like that. They're like, does your man know? Like, of course our men know what we're doing, and they support us. And like the way that they word it is acting like, that there's some kind of like
puppies or something,
right.
So Essie has a good question. Can you differentiate the roles of Lucifer, Odin, and Lilith, and what exactly are deities and gods?
Do you want to go first?
Oh, okay. I work so the roles of Lucifer. So Lucifer, and it's also different for people, but traditionally he's the one that is kind of helps you like enlighten to your inner esotericism or your inner spirituality, or like literally your like light from within comes back, which was my problem. Like I've been through a lot of abusive things and stuff like that. So like I was like this big, and I with writing, if I was not working with Lucifer, like the lights would not have turned on for me to do it. So I feel like Lucifer helps us like illuminate things. I feel like Lilith is just like that primal female or feminine energy that you connect with. It's very sexual. It's very like in your shadow, but like the beautiful parts of your shadow. So that's kind of how she was for me, but also like people that have mother wounds, she'll go to as well, in my experience. Now I'll let you talk about Odin, because Odin kind of gave me, when I had Odin, it was all about like wisdom and study and symbols. For some reason, like he was showing me symbols, and obviously the runes were part of it, but also getting me interested in sigil work from Odin. That's how like they manifested to me. So I don't know if there's any similarities.
Yeah, it's kind of similar for me. But right now, kind of the sigil work is okay. So it's like the sigil work is, I'm interested in it, and I think it's because of Odin. But the main thing with Odin right now is he is really helping me heal a lot of wounds. But because he's not an overbearing god, it's not something that's happening 24/7 where Odin is like, where you going? What you doing? It's a very like gentle and slow process. And he's as far as like, I have a huge desire for knowledge, and that comes with things that he's put on my heart. And so I'm all over the place trying to like look for more and more knowledge. I love wisdom and knowledge and things, and I love that we will never know everything, because there's so much to know, and there's so much that hasn't been found out yet for us to look up, but also the artsy side of Odin. People don't usually talk about that, but he loves poetry, and he has really helped me expand into my creative world and put my creativity first, and not worry about what everybody else is doing, not worry about like petty things, but to just put my creativity first and be steadfast and true to myself and all those things. And so yeah, working for Odin for me has been really freeing, because it's like, oh, he's always been there. Like, not every second of every day, because he doesn't work like that. But he's always been there, and it's just, yeah, it's the beginning stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You don't hear about the creative side about it at all for most people. So I'm glad that he's doing
They like
that.
to talk about the war and the wisdom, but
right.
there's the creativity side of him too. And there are some times where Odin has told me, like, you're acting a damn fool. Like, stop and just focus on your creativity. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I get that from Lucifer. Lucifer is actually very gentle with me, and I hear he's not always with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that I was probably just like paper thin when he came into my life. So he's probably just like,
He had some mercy on you. He was like,
yeah, he had
I
mercy on
can't be
me.
that
But there
toughy.
are times where like I am like not trusting, and that's the big thing with him that I've experienced is like, are you gonna trust me or not? Or
Mm-hmm.
do I have to like yank something else away for you to realize that like what you need is already here? So that was kind of like my tough love moment with Lucifer that the one time I was just like, damn, dude. Like, damn
Yeah.
it, dad. So
I could feel Odin's displeasure upon me in that moment, and I was like, oh yeah, I really
mhm.
do need to be focusing on my creativity and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, like we're being dramatic and they're just like, we already told you. So we
Mm-hmm.
have time for two more questions, because there are two more questions. So this one is from Esty as well. How did you discover which resonated the most?
Is that for me or for you?
For you.
Oh, okay, cool. I discovered what resonated with me the most, sort of by trial and error. And I think that's something I encourage a lot of people to do, and I think it's something that most people kind of go towards is a trial and error. So not necessarily an error for me, but when I considered working with um, demons, Lucifer, Lilith, things like that, I kind of meditated on it. And though I didn't feel any like bad energy there, um, I still felt like that wasn't for me. And I love it when other people find that, because it's cool to see, people finding out the truth about all of these deities, right?
Right.
And not just like what they've been taught, but what they feel in their heart. And, when they've meditated on and stuff. But for me, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like me. It felt like when I pictured myself, the idea of worshiping those deities, it felt like I was pretending to be somebody. Like I was pretending to follow in another vampire's shoes or follow in another witch's shoes. And I was like, but that's not me. That's for them. That's for them. And I love that for them, but it's not for me. But then when I meditated on Odin, which I found in a weird way, I found him through a Wagner opera and then kind of researched the real Odin through that, just sheer curiosity. I found that a lot of what Odin stood for really kind of aligns with me. Like Odin is all over the place with himself. Like he's into wisdom, he's into war, he's into the runes, he's into creativity, and it's very, what's the word? I can't find the word. It kind of is like me. And so I'm like, okay. And so I meditated on it and it felt right. It felt like, oh. And then I started thinking back to all the signs and I was like, Odin has come to me multiple times and I had no
Yeah.
idea it was him. And so I lit a candle for him. I offered a sacrifice and I drank to him, and the rest is history.
Yeah. It was similar with like Lucifer. Like it was just like you think that you thought it was this person or this god or this saint, but it wasn't because this. Like that was not them. That was me. You just are afraid of me until now. Because
Mm-hmm.
fear is bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even being a witch, I was still not open. I was like, I would never work with demons. You know what I mean?
Right, because everybody's like, well, that's just wrong. And like I even almost a year ago now, someone told me, she was like, I don't care what people believe unless they work with the devil. And I was like,
Mm,
bruh.
you need to read. Yeah, people really need to look into etymology of the things that come out of the mouth because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't even mean that. Like same thing with Satan. Like Satan's kind of just like a title, like
No, see, and
like
then
a job title almost.
I just wanted to be like, who is the devil to you? Like, what do you mean the devil?
Well, they always
But
think it's
I
whatever they came
knew.
up to be or told as child, whatever their religions told them.
But I knew that was not a can of worms that I wanted to open up.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta just be like,
Mm-hmm.
They're there.
They're there, Muggle.
You'll read one day.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are just not meant to either. Some people are not meant to be this deep. Some people are just meant to be here and live like the happy shallowness around them.
Mm-hmm. As long as they're happy and they're not
Exactly.
being mean to people, I don't care, you know, what you believe and worship. Just be nice to people and be nice to yourself.
I agree. All right, final question, because we're coming up on the hour. What was it like being open about being a vampire for the first time?
It was really scary. It was really scary. And I had some people say, you know, that's not real or that's evil. And then, you know, I expected it. So even though it did hurt, it didn't hurt as much as maybe it would have if I was to be very naive about it. But I knew people were going to be skeptical right off the bat. So that was okay. Then that's when I realized that those were people I couldn't continue to have any type of relationship with, because we would never see eye to eye after that point.
Yeah. You feel bad
And
about
then and then the people that have always been there with me accepting it was super. It made my heart very happy, and it made me feel very warm and fuzzy and cozy, but very happy and freeing. And just people now, it's not a secret. It's widely known that that's who I am. There are people who know me as a vampire, and you know they know me as that, and don't even know like the other sides of me. They just know me for that spiritual practice. So because it's common knowledge, it's almost like I'm just kind of accepted for who I am in most cases, and then people that don't accept it are usually quiet and polite. And then of course, you know, you get the random haters that are like, "Blah, that's not real. That's evil." You know, all of that, and it's just like noise, just like white noise to me at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like you don't have to believe it, but at least respect it, kind of like what Con is saying.
Yeah, but like when people either feel like that resonates with them, or even if they're not, you know, super magical themselves, but they accept it, just like it makes me happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's super, I freaked out. I made one video on my author TikTok and I'm like, I'm a vampire. Then I'm like, did I just tell everybody? Like, I mean, even though I have like a
You told
vampire
the
account,
whole world.
I have a vampire account, but I'm like, I'm a vampire who's an author who's this and this and this, and I'm just like, it just kind of like came out and I just left it because I was like, but now I got people like, bite me, And then,
Yeah, I get those comments too, and sometimes I'll look into my requests messages, and that's always a mistake. It's always bite me.
I've
This,
been like
that.
a total pain in the butt to some of these people because the ones I say like leave me alone, they keep doing it. Like you can block them, but I've kind of been like on a 2-step, 3-step verification process with them. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need your Instagram, and then I'm gonna need you to send me a voice note, a video. It's just like, I'm gonna need all your social media. I'm gonna need all these things from you, and then they just leave me alone because I'm being a pain in the ass. But it's kind of funny because like they're just like, oh, but why?
Because.
Okay, so where can people find you? We have a question about the Discord. How do people contact you? And did you get to talk about everything you wanted to talk about? Was there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to?
Let's see. I announced the poetry and talked about the opera. Where you can find me on TikTok at the Vampire Heli. I do want to touch on this real quick though. There are some fake accounts of me out there, which is sad and unfortunate. A lot of times in the magical communities or world, you'll get a lot of people pretending to be other people to scam people for readings. So there's some fakes out there, but the real Vampire Heli account is the Vampire Heli on TikTok, and on YouTube, I'm Vampire Heli. On Instagram, I'm Vampire Heli. And then the Discord is called the Spaghetti Empire because I love spaghetti. And if you want to be in my Discord, I would love to have you in my Discord. It's open. You just need to get an invite. So just message me on Instagram at Vampire Heli, and I'll get you a link into the Discord.
Very cool. So thank you so much for your time tonight. And thank you for being patient with all my technical crap. My computer just was like, nope.
Thank you for being patient with me, because I didn't even see your messages until 10 minutes later.
Yeah, like the kids want to go to bed. One's awake now. He's waking up the other one. It's just like, I hate to blame things on Mercury, but when it's technical issues and miscommunications and just random craziness, I need to blame somebody. All right. I'm
No,
just gonna
and I
blame
saw
Mercury.
that. I saw that they were like, prepare for technology issues. And I'm like, no, I'm not prepared for technology issues.
I usually ignore it. You know, there is when I get more like technical issues when I'm doing paranormal investigators, because we talk to ghosts. There's one here in my house, and then like they tend to have like weird things about them, and then I have weird things about me. So it's just technical issues. But the Mercury thing, I'm definitely blaming Mercury this time, because there's this too much Mercury type hood rat stuff happening. Mercury is being a hood rat, and I don't like it.
No more Mercury retrograde. I'm over it.
Bro, it's like 2 days in, we're done. So guys, go follow Vampire Heli, and you know, hit her up for Discord if you want. You know where to find me. I have multiple personalities, so I have three different TikToks and 2 different Instagrams. The Quantum Witch is probably the best Instagram, but I'm gonna give you. I just changed my TikTok name. So I'm gonna give you my author one, because that is the one I'm the most active on. Somebody's asking. It is Priscilla Darkling. I'll just put it in here.
I love that name though, Priscilla
I just
Darkling.
changed it for the Book Talk girls.
I love Book Talk. I think I'm gonna try and start getting more involved on there, because especially with my poetry and stuff, I want people to know I write, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's why I made this one. And then you'll just see like my name's my actual name, Priscilla Stone, author. My last name. My name's not actually author, but everybody.
Your last name is author. That's
yeah.
awesome.
My middle name is Stone. So yeah, people are like, you're using your real name. Don't you not want people to know who you like? What if you want a real job? I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be 40 in February. If I can't just stay my husband's cat, I'm done. Like I don't have a job after that. like I've dedicated my life to my family. I'm a cat now. I'm a cat vampire, and I'm staying that way. Nobody can take the title from me.
Exactly. And if people can't really accept you for you, it's not probably an environment you want to be around anyway.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever have a real job. First of all, I'm neurospicy, so it's hard. I have ADHD.
Same.
And nobody wants to be my friend in normal circumstances. And then also like people have this thing where they want to like emotionally dump on me. And it's fine, because it's when you're a energy vampire, emotional dumping is like a buffet. You're just like,
it's like nom nom nom.
So you're just like, I can take it, give it to me. But yeah, so yeah, I have 3 accounts. Then my vampire one's kind of like my more vampire, like I wouldn't say it's thirst trappy, but people tell me it is.
Ooh,
I think like that's the one that you're following me on. So like I don't think it's super thirst trappy.
No, not super thirst trappy, but like at the same time, sometimes I see some spice on there and I'm like, get it.
I'm getting more thirst trappy in my old age, guys. Like once you're headed into like cougardom, you're just like, there's no turning back. Like you either love me or hate me, and
exactly.
So, that's gonna be my shirt. You love me or hate me, and here's my tits. That'll be my first merch.
That'll be your merch. Your official merch.
But okay, now we're just getting silly because we're having fun. You're not doomed. Your name is McCloud. That doesn't get any better.
Oh, hi, McCloud.
Do you know this person?
Yeah, McCloud is a huge supporter, huge like friend in the internet world. So like every time that we do the lives and stuff, like because I don't ever know what to call, like, okay, because it's like I've been going live for so long now that I feel like my fans and supporters, they feel like a huge part of my life. So it's like they're friends. They're like their family almost. It's like, so I don't know like the proper term in English. But yeah.
Got My son's trying to sneak around behind me, and it's actually really funny.
What is that? The background? Is that your cat?
That's my son.
I thought it was your cat because I'm not wearing my glasses now, so I can't really see.
It's my cat baby. Yep.
It's your cat.
It's my elf on a shelf.
Yeah, but huge shout out to McPloud. He's always hanging out in the lives, and he mods my chat rooms too. So
oh my gosh, yeah, you need those. You need good mods when you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a pleasure. I was so excited to be on.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun tonight. I'm sorry I didn't bring more people, but like I'm kind of like, now I know I'm switching brands. Okay, you will come up.
I didn't.
Now everybody's telling everybody now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I'm switching. So like I had hot pink for the longest time, then I moved into red. Get out if you're gonna be crazy, please.
He's following me.
Brotherly love. But yeah, so my brand is changing from like UFO weirdness to just like every weirdness possible. So I'm like in transition with the audience, I think.
Yeah.
But as I'm losing people that are like, you're not a real researcher anymore, I'm gaining more weirdos, so it's fine. All the weirdos.
You're the audience that you attract will be the audience you get, because you're honestly you're fun. Like you have this fun personality, and as you transition into different content, the people that like that content will find you. It does take time and it is frustrating, but don't get discouraged because you have an awesome personality, and the people that are meant to be your fans and followers and supporters will come to you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that, and I hope that I can remember it when I'm getting frustrated. So, yep, I love all the weirdos. Come to me. I love them. McPloud says no troll tonight, so we've had him monitoring in the background. He's like a bouncer.
No.
All right, guys, have a great night. Stay for a minute. I will talk to you backstage and debrief you. I'm just kidding. Anyways, have a good night, everybody. Make sure you follow everybody here. So me and Helly, and share and subscribe and do all the things. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.